Hello and welcome to Unboxing Ledford. So, Ledford here is reporting on a study that was published in Science by Obermeyer and his associates. But we're reading the shorter article that breaks that down that was published in Nature by Ledford. All right, I hope everybody is safe and healthy. I hope your loved ones are too. And since last time I wished that your enemies were healthy, today I'll hope that you defeat your enemies and see them driven before you. On that note, the first thing in my box. All right, I got my wallet, and I actually do have some money in here. So this is the idea that what Obermeyer and his colleagues discovered was that for people who had the same kinds of serious health problems and the same number of serious health problems, in an algorithm that determines what kind of personalized care patients receive, Black patients with similar levels of health problems were disproportionately given a lower risk score, which means that they were less likely to get more personalized help. So why is this the case? What does this have to do with money? Well, that's because the risk score was primarily calculated in terms of how much money the patient had been spending in a year on healthcare. So instead of and again, the company that developed this algorithm out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota, they said that that's really just one thing that they looked at. But Obermeyer and his associates, they discovered that this algorithm was disproportionately representing white people as more in need of healthcare because on average, white people with the same health problems are spending more money than Black people with the same health problems. So because they were looking primarily at money as an indicator, that's what led to this disproportionate assignment of risk scores. All right, I got one more thing in my box today. That's a mirror. Because this is about sort of taking a look at ourselves. This is a human problem, right? At the close of Ledford's paper, she actually acknowledges that although AI algorithms have bias, they are less biased than human decision making. And we can also talk about how human bias, implicit or otherwise, may then translate into AI bias. So 2 points here. It's really about looking at ourselves. This is a human problem, so there are human causes. Yes, Obermeyer and his associates found a way to tweak the algorithm so that it would be 84% less biased, but ultimately, these are not just technological solutions that we require, right? Ledford here is considering not just the technical fixes, how can we tweak the algorithms, but also thinking about some sort of training for people who are developing these kinds of algorithms, or also just looking for a more diverse set of people to be developing these algorithms so that you don't have implicit or other forms of bias that are going in unchecked. And then there's that last recommendation, which is that there should be auditing of these algorithms before they're actually put into use. So the kinds of tests that Obermeyer and his associates were running on AI algorithms in healthcare, these kinds of tests or auditing should also be applied to AI algorithms. So we might think about how that applies not only to AI algorithms that are being used to determine who gets healthcare, but also thinking about AI algorithms that are supposed to determine whether or not there's a pedestrian in front of an autonomous car, or whether there's an AI algorithm that's being used to analyze intelligence or full motion video. So this is really about sort of looking at ourselves, looking at how we ourselves as a culture, as a species, are contributing to these problems, right? There are technological solutions, but the problems themselves are not purely technological. The problems themselves are human. On that note, I know this article, especially for me, rings as especially relevant as we're seeing largely disproportionate numbers of African Americans dying in this country from COVID-19. You have places that may have 30% of their population are Black, but 70% of the deaths from COVID-19 are Black. So if we're looking at systemic bias in healthcare, right, it's not just about the AI algorithms, as Ledford points out. It's also about any other number of ways that very human bias can interfere with people getting the healthcare that they need. So that's what we're really looking for. Ultimately, I want to bring it back to that Buddhist value of limitlessness or boundlessness, where there is universal love for humanity without discrimination, without any attention for differences. On that note, I do hope everybody is safe and healthy, and I hope your loved ones are too. Take care, everyone.